All right, let's talk Oregon Ducks football. This is a team that through the first 2 weeks, there was some concern among the offense. A lot of those concerns were put to bed with an emphatic week 3 victory. But the Oregon Ducks, I think, have made kind of a smart under the radar move in terms of basically naming a starter at a key position for the rest of the season. I think it's a great move by the Oregon Ducks. I'm Nick, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, fresh off a massive rivalry victory for this Oregon football team as they get ready for the Big Ten schedule. They've made a smart decision. They have finalized a starter at, I think, the second most important position on this offense. Let's get into this report and then we'll talk about it on the other side. This is from 24/7 Sports. The Oregon offense was nearly perfect against Oregon State. All 8 drives resulted in scores with 6 concluding with touchdowns, leaving Dean Lanning and players to agree that the standard was reached in the 49-14 win. After frequent rotations seemed to disturb the Lions' rhythm this previous week, the Ducks stuck with their starting 5 for the duration on Saturday with Iapani Lalalu, and I know I just butchered that. I apologize. Make fun of me in the comment section below. Handling the center reps exclusively, and Deshaun Strother and Marcus Harper manning the guard positions. The combination led to a cleaner operation. No offensive line penalties were committed. There were no premature snaps, and quarterback Dillon Gabriel was never sacked and rarely pressured. I think this is the right decision from the Oregon Ducks. We saw through the first few weeks of the season, they were trying to figure out who they were going to be up front in the offensive line. Part of the reason why it was so ugly, they figured it out. They found the right personnel grouping. They obliterated Oregon State. Now it's full speed ahead the rest of the way. Smart move by Oregon using the first 2 weeks to find the right group. Now they've calibrated, ready to rock and roll. Miles, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. But first, Oregon fans in the comment section below, through 3 weeks, there's been some iffy, but some really good, certainly over the last Saturday. Give us your early season MVP that no one is talking about. We all know Dillon Gabriel's doing some good things, but outside of him, give us the MVP so far through this Oregon Ducks season that no one is talking about. Put them in the comment section below. But Miles, what are your thoughts on this latest Oregon Ducks news?
Yeah, I think this is a really good move for the Oregon Ducks, a smart move because especially when you see the coaches when they're questioned on why make the move, like what brought you to the point of doing all of this. They said what I think is probably the most important thing in college football when it's so volatile. One loss can be so big, and the Oregon Ducks in a new season in the Big Ten. There's a lot of unknowns going forward when you have to play these really tough teams. You got to play the Ohio States of the world, the Michigans of the world, Wisconsin's of the world. A lot of really tough games left on the schedule. And they said consistency. That was the reason. We don't want any volatility on the offensive line. We need consistent play week in and week out. We're going to let our skill positions, let our quarterback, like you said, Dillon Gabriel, completing like 80+% of his passes so far this season. It's incredible. They're going to let those guys do what they need to do. And I think when we look at what Oregon has done over the last couple of weeks, they've been good. People have been like, well, they're not flashy. They're not as explosive as we remembered them to be last year. And it could just be it's a different style of team now. But the last 2 weeks, 79 overall grade for the offense, 78 overall grade. Those are good grades for the offense. And now they're coming out 88.7 overall grade for this offense. Pass blocking grades of 89.6 for this offensive line as a unit. Run blocking grades in the 70s compared to the last couple weeks of 50 run blocking grade, 58 pass blocking grade. Not very good, not very consistent. We see them come out against Oregon State, heated rival, a team that they really need to come out and give a shellacking to, and that is what happened. They come out, they do great on defense, holding 14 points. They do great on offense, go out and score 49 points. And I think the comments from Dan Lanning really hit home what is going on in Oregon. He said the standard was finally met. What we are expecting from this team has finally been met. So you go out, you put out your best performance. Those are the guys you want to stick with, and that is going to lead to consistency down the stretch when there's a lot of questions yet to be answered.
We talk about it on this channel all the time. I think I may have to write it on the wall behind me at some point just to constantly, I don't have to keep repeating myself. But college football has essentially become the National Football League in terms of roster management strategy, right? With the NIL transfer portal, free agency trades, right? It's just like professional football. Now we got a 12-team playoff where you can lose 1 or 2 games, maybe even 3 if you win your conference, and you're in, right? Kind of like the NFL, you're going to lose games, right? And in the National Football League, you use the early part of the season to try and figure out who you are, right? You obviously don't want to lose games, but you want to figure out, okay, how are we going to play? What kind of team are we? Are we a smash mouth team? Are we a outside zone team? Are we an inside zone team? Are we a play action team? Are we a five wide team? Are we a big play team? Are we a move the football methodically team? What kind of team are we? What kind of personnel do we like to use? Every NFL team right now is going through that and will through another week or two to about 3 or 4 games till they try and figure out exactly who they are. College football, big time college football is the exact same way. Smart programs like the Oregon Ducks are using these first 2 or 3 weeks, especially against inferior competition, to figure out who they are, right? Who cares if you have an ugly game week 1 or week 2, right? It's not the BCS era where you're trying to be one of the top 2 teams based on some computer poll. It's not the college football playoff era where you got 20 dudes in a room trying to figure out if you're the fourth best team or not, right? You can lose, again, 1 game at least, probably 2, and you get in. And if you win your conference, even if you lose 3 games, you get in either way. So look, some ugly performances don't kill you. So use this time to figure out who you are. Use this time to evaluate your players. Use this time to figure out what personnel packages give you the best chance of success when the games really heat up the second half of the schedule, which it's about to for Oregon after their bye. This is just smart by Dan Lanning. This is what he does. This is this Kirby Smart era. This is this SEC pro football mindset of, listen, it's not about winning week 1, 84-0. I love you, Ohio State, for doing that. They do that every year. They play some terrible teams week 2, the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season, beat them by 80 points, and then they wonder why they fall apart at the end of the season. It's because they haven't used those great opportunities to figure out how their personnel packages when the going gets tough. The Oregon Ducks have that. They figured it out, they got it done, and they're going to be set up perfectly when it comes time for conference play, and of course when it comes time for the playoff games at the end of the season. Smart move by Dan Lanning once again, and they're setting up Oregon for a lot of success.